She fell to the floor at my husband's funeral reception. Stephanie, my daughter-in-law's mother, was shaking violently on the church hall carpet, foam pooling at the corners of her mouth. And all I could think was, well, that wasn't supposed to happen to her. The glass slipped from Rachel's hand as she rushed toward her mother. It shattered on the floor, barely audible over the sudden chaos of 70 funeral guests, realizing something was terribly wrong. Someone screamed for 911. My son Matt pushed through the crowd, his face white as paper, but I stayed exactly where I was. One hand gripping the back of a folding chair, watching the scene unfold with a strange, cold clarity, because I knew what no one else in that church knew. Stephanie Williams didn't drink from her own glass. She drank from mine. 10 minutes earlier, I'd been standing near the refreshment table accepting condolences from people I barely knew. My husband Robert died suddenly only a few days ago. 3 days to be exact since I'd found him collapsed in our study. 3 days since the paramedics had worked on him in our living room while I'd stood there numb and useless, watching the man I'd loved for 42 years slip away. Heart attack, the ER doctor had said. Massive. He probably didn't feel much pain. That was supposed to be a comfort, I think. The funeral had been beautiful, but Robert would have hated it. All that fuss, all those flowers. He'd always said he wanted to be cremated and scattered somewhere practical like the vegetable garden. Instead, I'd let Matt and Rachel plan everything, too grief-stricken to care about flower arrangements and hymn selections. "You need to rest, Mom," Matt had kept saying. "Let us handle the details." So I had. I'd let them handle everything. I'd drifted through the viewing, the service, the reception, accepting hugs and murmured sympathies, my mind somewhere else entirely, somewhere back in our study, watching Robert's chest stop moving. I was standing there, lost in that memory, when I saw Rachel at the drinks table. She was alone, which was unusual. Rachel was never alone at social events. She thrived on attention, always in the center of a group, always laughing too loud at someone's joke. But at that moment, she was by herself, her back to the room, her shoulders hunched in a way that looked almost suspicious. I watched as she glanced over her shoulder, once, twice, then reached into her small black clutch purse. Her hand emerged holding something tiny, a bottle, no bigger than my thumb, the kind you'd use for essential oils or eye drops. My grief-fogged brain struggled to make sense of what I was seeing. Was Rachel putting essential oils in the drinks? That seemed like something she'd do, actually. Rachel was always talking about wellness trends, detox teas, supplements that would change your life. But then, I saw her hands. They were shaking. She unscrewed the tiny bottle with trembling fingers, glanced around again, and held it over a specific glass. A glass of water with a lemon wedge floating in it. My glass. Everyone knew I always requested water with lemon at events. Had, for years. Some silly habit I'd picked up in my 20s and never shaken. 3 drops fell from the bottle into my water. Rachel's head swiveled, checking if anyone had noticed. I was partially hidden behind a group of Robert's old coworkers, but I could see her perfectly. Her face was pale, her jaw clenched. She screwed the cap back on, dropped the bottle into her purse, and picked up my water glass. Then she smoothed her hair, arranged her face into an expression of gentle concern, and started walking toward me. My brain finally caught up. Something was very, very wrong. "Willa," Rachel said softly, appearing at my elbow. Her perfume was overwhelming, that expensive floral scent she always wore. "You look so pale. Have some water." She held out the glass. The lemon wedge bobbed innocently. I looked at my daughter-in-law. Really looked at her. Rachel was 34, beautiful in that Instagram way. Highlighted hair, microbladed eyebrows, a body maintained by expensive personal trainers. She was wearing a black dress that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Her nails were freshly done, a tasteful nude shade, appropriate for a funeral. Her eyes, though. Her eyes were watching me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. "Thank you, sweetheart," I heard myself say. My voice sounded distant, calm. Strange how shock does that to you. Makes you perform normalcy even when your world is tilting sideways. I took the glass from her hand. The glass she'd just poisoned. Rachel's lips curved into a small, sympathetic smile. "I know this day is overwhelming. Make sure you stay hydrated, okay?" "You're so thoughtful," I said. She squeezed my arm and turned to greet someone else, her expression shifting seamlessly to sorrowful daughter-in-law. I stood there holding the glass, my heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. This couldn't be real. I was imagining things. Grief was making me paranoid. Rachel wouldn't, she couldn't, but my hands were shaking now, just like hers had been. I looked around the church hall. Stephanie was nearby. Robert's sister Margaret was talking to the pastor. Matt was speaking with the funeral director. Normal people doing normal things at a normal funeral reception, and I was holding a glass of poisoned water. Why? The question screamed through my mind. Why would Rachel want to hurt me? We weren't particularly close, but we weren't enemies. I'd always been generous with them, helped when they needed it. Just last year, I'd given them $20,000 when Matt's architecture firm had a rough quarter. Willa, dear. Stephanie appeared beside me, her eyes red from crying. Rachel's mother had always been kind to me, in a scattered, well-meaning way. I can't find my water. Did you see where I put it? I looked at the glass in my hand, then at Stephanie, then back at the glass. Actually, I said, my voice steadier than I felt, this is too cold for me. The ice hurts my teeth. Would you like it? Stephanie's face brightened. Oh, are you sure? You're so thoughtful, even today. She took the glass from my hand. The lemon wedge bobbed. Of course, I said. My lips felt numb. Stephanie took a long drink, then another. That's better. Thank you, Willa. You shouldn't have to take care of anyone else today, but here you are, always thinking of others. She patted my arm and moved away, still holding my glass. I stood frozen, watching her walk back toward the refreshment table. What had I just done? If I was wrong, if I was just paranoid, if grief had made me imagine, but I hadn't imagined those drops. I hadn't imagined Rachel's shaking hands, her dodgy glances, the way she'd specifically brought that glass to me. 5 minutes passed. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe properly. I watched Stephanie chatting with Margaret, taking another sip of water. She looked fine, normal. Maybe I was losing my mind. Stephanie's hand went to her throat. She set down the glass. I watched as she said something to Margaret, who frowned and touched Stephanie's forehead. Stephanie shook her head, took a step, stumbled slightly. Margaret caught her arm. Are you okay? I couldn't hear Stephanie's response, but I could see her face, confused, scared. Then she collapsed. That's when the screaming started. Now, watching the paramedics load Stephanie onto a gurney, watching Rachel sob convincingly into Matt's shoulder, I felt something cold and hard settle in my chest, something that pushed the grief aside and sharpened everything into brutal clarity. My daughter-in-law had just tried to kill me at my husband's funeral. Mrs. Carson? A paramedic appeared at my elbow. Young guy, looked barely out of training. Did you see what happened? What did she eat or drink? Just water, I said, from the refreshment table. Any medications that you know of? Allergies? I don't think so. I glanced at Rachel, who was watching this conversation while pretending to comfort Matt. Her daughter would know better than me. The paramedic moved toward Rachel. I stayed where I was, my mind racing. If Rachel had tried to poison me, she'd need a reason. Money was the obvious answer. But Robert and I had simple wills. Everything to each other, then to Matt. Rachel would benefit eventually anyway. Why the rush? Why take such an insane risk? Unless something had changed. The memory hit me like cold water. 3 months ago, Robert insisting we update our wills. Just a precaution, he'd said. We're not getting any younger. We'd met with David Hartwell, our attorney. I'd assumed it was standard stuff. Medical directives, power of attorney documents. I'd signed where David pointed, trusting Robert to handle the details. He'd always been better with that kind of thing. Had Robert changed something? Something that would give Rachel a reason to. Mom? Matt was beside me suddenly, his face splotchy and red. Mom, are you okay? You should sit down. I'm fine. I looked at my son. He had Robert's eyes, that warm brown that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. But Matt wasn't smiling now. He looked terrified. This is insane, he said. Stephanie just, right here at Dad's funeral, He couldn't seem to finish sentences. Where's Rachel? I asked. She went with her mom in the ambulance. Matt ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I recognized from his childhood. He'd done that before every test, every difficult conversation. I should go to the hospital, but I don't want to leave you alone, not today. I'll be fine, I said. Go be with your wife." He hugged me, quick and tight. "I love you, Mom." "I know, sweetheart." I watched him rush out and felt that cold, hard thing in my chest grow a little bigger. The church hall emptied quickly after that. Nobody wants to stay at a funeral reception where someone's just collapsed. I stayed, though, helping the church ladies clean up. It gave me something to do with my hands while my mind worked. "Such a terrible thing," Mrs. Patterson said, wrapping leftover sandwiches. "Poor Stephanie. Do you think it was her heart?" "Maybe," I said, but I knew it wasn't her heart, and I knew I needed proof before I did anything else. I went home to the house I'd shared with Robert for 38 years. It felt enormous and empty. I'd been dreading this, the first night alone, but now I was grateful for the silence. I needed to think. I sat in Robert's study in his leather chair that still smelled like his cologne and called David Hartwell. "Willa," he said gently, "how are you holding up?" "I heard about Stephanie. Terrible thing. David, I need to know exactly what Robert changed in our wills 3 months ago." There was a pause. "Willa, now might not be the best time. What did he change?" Another pause. Then he restructured Matt's inheritance. Instead of a lump sum, Matt receives $50,000 a year from a trust. It continues for life, but the principal remains protected. $50,000 a year, not $15 million, not even close. "Why?" My voice sounded strange. Robert was concerned about... He didn't give specifics, but he mentioned that Matt and Rachel were having financial difficulties. He wanted to make sure the money would last, that it couldn't be mismanaged. Mismanaged? What a polite word for whatever Robert had been worried about. Did Matt know about this change? Robert said he planned to tell him, whether he actually did. David trailed off. "Thank you, David." I hung up and sat very still in Robert's chair. Rachel had tried to kill me today. She'd tried to kill me because Robert had protected his money from her, from them. And if I was gone, if I died before anyone knew about the will change. But that didn't make sense either. Even if I died, Matt would still only get the trust fund, unless Rachel thought she could challenge the will. Claim Robert wasn't in his right mind when he changed it. Claim I'd unduly influenced him, isolated him from his son. I'd seen enough estate battles to know how ugly they could get. And if I was conveniently dead, unable to testify about Robert's intentions. I stood up abruptly. This was insane. This kind of thing didn't happen in real life. People didn't murder their mothers-in-law for inheritance money. My phone rang. Matt. "Hey, Mom. Just wanted to let you know Stephanie's stable. They're keeping her overnight for observation." "What happened to her?" "They're not sure yet. Running tests. Rachel's a mess, obviously. Listen, is it okay if I stay at the hospital with them tonight? I don't want to leave Rachel alone." "Of course," I said. "Give Stephanie my best." After we hung up, I poured myself a glass of wine, something I never did alone, and tried to think clearly. If Rachel had poisoned Stephanie by accident, trying to poison me, she'd be panicking right now. Wondering if I'd noticed, wondering if Stephanie would survive to tell anyone what the water had tasted like. Wondering what to do next, which meant she'd probably try again. The thought should have terrified me. Instead, I felt that cold, hard thing in my chest expand a little more. If Rachel wanted to play games, I could play games. I'd spent 40 years building a consulting business from nothing. I'd negotiated with Fortune 500 CEOs. I'd survived corporate sharks who would eat Rachel for breakfast. I was 68 years old. I'd just buried my husband, and my daughter-in-law had tried to poison me at his funeral. She'd made a very serious mistake. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I went through Robert's files. He'd kept meticulous records, bank statements, investment portfolios, tax returns. And there, in a folder marked Matt, I found what I was looking for. Loan agreements, dozens of them. Starting 18 months ago, small amounts at first. 5,000 here, 10,000 there. Then, bigger, 25,000, 50,000. The last one, dated 4 months ago, was for $50,000. Robert's handwriting in the margin, last time. M must learn. I added it up. Robert had loaned Matt and Rachel over $175,000 in the past year and a half. And 4 months ago, he'd cut them off. 3 months ago, he'd changed his will. 2 weeks ago, Robert had started complaining about feeling dizzy, nauseous. Maybe I need different heart medication, he'd said. 3 days ago, he'd died. My hands were shaking so badly I had to set down the papers. It can't be. That was impossible. Rachel was manipulative, yes. Money hungry, absolutely. But murder? She couldn't have. But if she'd tried to kill me today, why not Robert first? Get rid of the obstacle, wait a respectful amount of time, then get rid of the wife before anyone knew about the will change. With both of us dead, Matt would inherit everything, and Rachel would have access to $15 million instead of $50,000 a year. I needed proof. I needed to know if I was losing my mind or if my daughter-in-law was a murderer. I called Cora Mitchell at 8 the next morning. Cora and I had worked together years ago when I was consulting for a company with an embezzlement problem. She was a corporate investigator then, specializing in financial crimes. Now, she ran her own private investigation firm. Willa, she said when she answered, I heard about Robert. I'm so sorry. Thank you. Cora, I need your help. Professionally. Name it. I need to know everything about my son's finances, bank accounts, credit cards, loans, spending patterns, everything. There was a brief pause. Willa, are you sure? Sometimes family secrets are better left. Someone tried to poison me yesterday at Robert's funeral reception. Jesus Christ. Okay, give me 48 hours. I visited Stephanie in the hospital that afternoon. She was awake, propped up on pillows, looking pale but alert. Rachel wasn't there. Matt had texted to say she'd gone home to shower and rest. Willa, Stephanie said when I walked in, you didn't have to come. How are you feeling? Like I got hit by a truck? She attempted a smile. The doctors are baffled. They keep asking what I ate, what I drank, if I take any medications, but I don't take anything except vitamins. I'm healthy as a horse. I sat in the chair beside her bed. Stephanie, do you remember what you drank yesterday? Just water. The water you gave me, actually. She paused. Why? I made a decision. Stephanie deserved to know. Because that water was meant for me. Her face went still. What do you mean? I saw Rachel put something in that glass, something from a small bottle. She brought it to me specifically, but I gave it to you instead. The color that had been returning to Stephanie's face drained away. Rachel? No, you must have seen wrong. Rachel wouldn't. Did she ask you anything unusual recently? About my habits, my routines? Stephanie's mouth opened, then closed. Her eyes filled with tears. Last month, she called me, asked about your daily schedule, what you like to eat and drink, if you'd been forgetful lately. I thought she was just being caring, worried about you after Robert's death. Robert was still alive last month. We stared at each other. My daughter, Stephanie whispered. My daughter tried to kill you, and I almost died instead. We don't know that for certain, I said, even though we both knew it was true. The doctors are running tests. Let's see what they find. But I already knew what they'd find. Some kind of poison, something that mimicked a heart attack or stroke, something that would be hard to trace. Cora called the next morning. You sitting down? She asked. Should I be? Yeah. Matt and Rachel are in serious trouble. $340,000 in debt, second mortgage on the house, credit cards maxed out, car loans they can't afford. Rachel's spending $8,000 to $12,000 a month on online shopping alone. And Matt's architecture firm? It's been losing money for 2 years. My stomach sank. I'd known they were struggling, but this? There's more, Cora continued. I found the loan agreements from Robert. But here's what's interesting. The last loan was 4 months ago. $50,000 for emergency medical expenses. I checked. There were no medical expenses. The money went straight to paying credit card minimums. Robert must have found out. That would be my guess. Willa, there's one more thing. I found a life insurance policy on you. $2 million taken out 6 months ago. Guess who the beneficiary is? I didn't need to guess. How is that legal? I asked. How can Rachel take out a policy on me without my knowledge? She claimed insurable interest as your caregiver. The insurance company probably assumed Matt was the actual beneficiary, and Rachel was just handling the paperwork. It's shady, but not technically illegal if she misrepresented her role. After I hung up, I sat in Robert's study for a long time. Rachel had been planning this for 6 months. 6 months. She'd taken out a life insurance policy on me, researched my habits, waited for the right moment. I called the medical examiner's office. I wasn't sure they'd tell me anything, but I had to try. "Mrs. Carson," the assistant said. "Actually, I'm glad you called. Dr. Reynolds wanted to speak with you. Can you hold?" Dr. Reynolds came on the line. "Mrs. Carson, there's been a development with your husband's autopsy." My heart stopped. What kind of development? "Given the recent incident with Mrs. Williams, we decided to run additional tests on your husband's samples. Standard procedure when there's a similar incident in the family. And, Mrs. Carson, I'm very sorry to tell you this. Your husband didn't die of a heart attack. We found traces of toxins in his system. It's a plant-based toxin that can mimic cardiac arrest. In the original autopsy, we had no reason to look for it, but with Mrs. Williams showing similar symptoms, the room tilted." "My husband was murdered?" "I'm afraid so. I've already contacted the police. They'll want to speak with you." After I hung up, I couldn't move, couldn't think, couldn't breathe. Rachel had killed Robert, and I'd let Matt marry her. I'd welcomed her into our family. I'd given them money, helped them buy their house, paid for their vacations. The grief I'd been holding at bay crashed over me. Not the numb, distant grief I'd felt at the funeral. This was raw and sharp and all-consuming. Robert was gone, not from a heart attack, not from natural causes, from murder, from poison administered by the woman sleeping under my son's roof, sharing his bed, planning his future. I don't know how long I sat there crying, long enough that my phone rang 3 times before I could answer it. "Mom," Matt's voice. "Mom, the police just called. They're saying Dad was poisoned? That can't be right. Tell me that's not right." "It's right," I said. I could hear him breathing. "Mom, they think Rachel did it." "Did she, Matt?" No, of course not. She loved Dad. She wouldn't." His voice cracked. "Mom, you have to tell them she wouldn't." "Did you know about the will change?" I asked. "Did you know Robert cut your inheritance to $50,000 a year?" Silence. "Matt? Did you know?" "He told me 2 months ago." Matt's voice was barely a whisper. "He said Rachel and I needed to learn financial responsibility. I was angry, really angry, but I wouldn't." "Did Rachel know?" Another silence. Longer this time. "She overheard us arguing about it," Matt finally said. "She was furious. She said Dad was being cruel, that we deserved that money, that we'd been counting on it." He took a shaky breath. "But Mom, she wouldn't kill him. This is insane." "Is it?" I asked. "Is it insane, Matt? Because from where I'm sitting, it makes perfect sense. You're $300,000 in debt. Your business is failing. Rachel spends money like water. And your father cut off both the loans and the inheritance. So she killed him. And when that didn't solve the problem because of the will, she tried to kill me too." "No way." But he didn't sound sure. "Mom, that can't be. Did you know she was planning something at the funeral?" "What?" "No, He stopped. "Oh, God." "What, Matt?" "The night before the funeral. I caught her on her phone looking at some website about plants, poisonous plants. She said she was just curious, that she'd seen something on a true crime show." I didn't think. He made a sound like a sob. "Oh, God, Mom, what did she do?" What did she do? As if he hadn't been complicit. As if he hadn't watched his wife research poisons and said nothing. As if he hadn't stood by while his mother took a poisoned glass from his wife's hands. "I need to go, Matt." "Mom, wait." I hung up. The police came that afternoon. Detective Sarah Morrison and her partner, Detective James Park. They sat in my living room and asked careful questions about Robert's last weeks, about the funeral, about my relationship with Rachel. "Mrs. Carson," Detective Morrison said gently, "we understand Mrs. Williams was given your drink at the reception. Can you walk us through exactly what happened?" I told them, all of it. Rachel at the drinks table, the small bottle, the poisoned water, the switch. "Why didn't you drink it yourself?" Detective Park asked. "Because I saw her put something in it, and I knew something was very wrong. But you gave it to Mrs. Williams instead of alerting anyone." I met his eyes. "Would you have believed me at my husband's funeral, grieving, distraught, claiming my daughter-in-law was trying to poison me? Or would you have thought grief had made me paranoid? He didn't answer. Besides, I continued, I wasn't certain. Not then. It all happened so fast. I gave Stephanie the water because I don't know what I thought, that I was seeing things maybe, that I was losing my mind. And now? Detective Morrison asked. Now, Stephanie is in the hospital with poison in her system. Now I know my husband was murdered with the same poison. Now I'm certain. They asked more questions. I answered them all. I told them about the loan agreements, the will change, the life insurance policy. I gave them Cora's findings. I gave them everything. We'll need to bring Rachel in for questioning, Detective Morrison said, and Matt as well. Matt didn't know about Robert, I said. Then more quietly, at least I don't think he did. But he knew something was going to happen at the funeral. He knew, and he didn't stop it. After they left, I sat in the silent house and thought about my son, my sweet, sensitive boy who'd cried when his goldfish died, who'd defended kids from bullies in middle school, who'd called me every Sunday without fail. When had he turned into someone who could watch his wife plan murder and say nothing? Rachel was arrested the next day. Matt called me, crying. They took her, Mom, right out of our house in handcuffs. The neighbors saw everything. She says she didn't do it. She says someone's framing her. Do you believe her? A long pause. I don't know. I don't know anything anymore. Matt, the police are going to want to talk to you again about what you knew and when you knew it. I didn't know about Dad, he said quickly. I swear to God, I didn't know she'd killed Dad. But you knew about the funeral. I didn't know. Not really. There was something off about her that morning. She was nervous, jumpy, and the night before, the thing with the plant website, his voice broke. I should have said something. Oh God, Mom, I should have said something. Yes, I said quietly. You should have. I hung up and cried for my son, for the man he'd become, for the man he'd never be. Cora came over that evening with updates. Rachel's phone records showed searches for undetectable poisons, for how to make a death look like natural causes. Her credit card showed a purchase from an online botanical supplier 3 weeks before Robert's death. They've got her, Cora said. The DA is moving forward with murder charges for Robert and attempted murder for you and Stephanie. What about Matt? They're still investigating. Depends on what they can prove he knew. She looked at me carefully. Willa, are you okay? Was I okay? My husband had been murdered. My daughter-in-law had tried to kill me. My son had been complicit. I wasn't sure I'd ever be okay again. I'm angry, I said instead. I'm so angry I can barely breathe. That's healthy, Cora said. Anger will get you through this. Anger is useful. She was right. The anger burned away the grief, the confusion, the hurt. It left me clear-headed and cold. I called David Hartwell the next morning. I want to change my will, I said. Everything goes to charity. Matt gets nothing. Willa, are you sure? My son stood by while his wife poisoned his father, while she tried to poison me. He knew something, David. Maybe not everything, but something, and he said nothing. David was quiet for a moment. If you're certain, I'll draw up the papers. The trial happened faster than I expected. Rachel's lawyer tried to argue reasonable doubt, tried to suggest someone else had access to Robert's medication, but the evidence was overwhelming. Her searches, her purchases, her financial motive, Stephanie's testimony about Rachel's suspicious questions, my testimony about the poisoned water at the funeral. Matt testified too, about Rachel's anger over the will change, about finding her researching plants the night before the funeral, about his own willful blindness. I didn't want to believe it, he said from the stand, tears running down his face. She's my wife. I loved her. I didn't want to believe she could do something like this. The jury deliberated for 4 hours, guilty on all counts. Rachel was sentenced to 30 years to life. She screamed as they led her away, screaming that it wasn't fair, that I'd manipulated everyone, that the money should have been hers. Matt was charged with accessory after the fact and conspiracy. His lawyer got him a plea deal, 5 years in exchange for his testimony against Rachel. I watched my son sentenced and felt nothing, just that cold, hard thing in my chest, growing and growing until it felt like all that was left of me. I sold the house. I couldn't live there anymore. In the rooms where Robert had been poisoned, where I'd planned funeral arrangements for a man who'd been murdered. I bought a small condo overlooking the water. 2 bedrooms, a balcony, enough space for me and no one else. Stephanie visited once a week. We'd sit on my balcony drinking coffee, 2 women bound together by the worst kind of tragedy. I keep wondering where I went wrong with her, Stephanie said one morning. What I did that made her capable of this. I asked myself the same thing about Matt, I admitted. At least Matt seemed to have some conscience, some remorse. Stephanie stared into her coffee. Rachel still maintained she did nothing wrong, that we're all conspiring against her. We sat in silence, watching boats drift across the water. Matt wrote to me from prison every week, long letters about his regrets, his shame, his desperate desire for forgiveness. I kept them in a drawer, unread. I wasn't ready yet. Maybe I never would be. But I'd started something else, something that gave me a reason to get up in the morning. The Robert Carson Foundation for Elder Abuse Prevention. I threw myself into it with the same intensity I'd once brought to my consulting business. We gave talks at senior centers, published resources about financial manipulation, offered free legal consultations to elderly people worried about family members. The people you trust most can become the people who hurt you most, I told a room full of seniors at a community center. Watch for the warning signs: sudden interest in your finances, isolation from friends, pressure to sign documents you don't understand, and trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. After the talk, a woman approached me. She was maybe 75, well-dressed, nervous. My grandson, she said quietly. He's been asking about my will, pushing me to change it, and I found... She pulled out her phone, showed me a search history: sleeping pills, overdoses, accidental deaths in the elderly. I helped her find a lawyer that same day, got her into a safe situation, reported her grandson to Adult Protective Services. I couldn't save Robert. I couldn't save my relationship with Matt, but I could save others, one person at a time. A year after Robert's death, I visited his grave. I'd avoided it until then, unable to face the headstone, the finality of it. But it was time. I brought roses, his favorite, sat on the grass beside the grave. My fingers traced the letters of his name carved in granite. Our son is in prison, I told him. I visit him once a month now. He cries every time, says he's sorry. I don't know if I believe him. I don't know if it matters. A breeze rustled through the cemetery trees. You tried to protect me, I continued. You changed the will, you kept those loan records. You tried to warn me. I found the draft text on your phone, Robert, the one you never sent. If anything happens to me, check the will. You knew, somehow you knew, and you tried to tell me. My voice cracked. I just wish you'd told me sooner. We could have faced them together, but we couldn't go back. We could never go back. I pulled off my wedding ring. I'd worn it for 42 years. It felt strange to remove it, like taking off part of my own skin. I love you, I whispered. I'll always love you. But I need to figure out how to be just Willa now. I placed the ring on top of his headstone. The gold glinted in the sunlight. Then I stood up, wiped my eyes, and walked back to my car. I didn't look back. They say you never really know someone until money's involved. I thought I knew Robert, Matt, Rachel. I was wrong about all of them, just in different ways. Robert was braver than I knew. He saw the danger and tried to protect me, even as it killed him. Matt was weaker than I wanted to believe. He chose his wife over his father, chose willful blindness over a difficult truth. And Rachel was more dangerous than anyone imagined. She looked at a human life and saw only a bank account. She looked at her husband's parents and saw only obstacles to wealth. I'm 69 years old now. I thought my life was winding down, that the exciting chapters were behind me. Instead, I've learned that survival is its own kind of story, and mine isn't over yet. Robert left me $15 million and a life to rebuild. Some days, I don't know if that's a gift or a burden, but every morning I wake up in my little condo, make my coffee, watch the boats on the water, and choose to keep going. That's my revenge. That's my victory. The foundation is thriving. We've helped over 200 families in the past year, prevented countless cases of elder abuse, given people the tools to protect themselves. Last week, a woman called to say we'd saved her mother from a grandson who'd been slowly draining her accounts. She would have died penniless if not for your talk, the woman told me. You saved her. I didn't save her. She saved herself. I just showed her the path. Matt gets out in 4 years. He still writes every week. Rachel will die in prison. She's exhausted her appeals. Sometimes I wonder if I should feel satisfaction about that, but I mostly just feel tired. Justice doesn't bring Robert back. It doesn't undo what happened. It doesn't make my son whole again or restore the years we've lost. I'm learning to be alone without being lonely, learning to fill my days with purpose instead of grief, learning that 69 isn't the end of anything. It's just another beginning. Some days are harder than others. Some days I wake up and forget Robert's gone, forget that Matt is in prison, forget that I'm starting over. Those days are the worst. But most days, I'm okay. I'm building something that matters, something that would make Robert proud. And I'm still here, still standing, still fighting. That has to count for something. Did Willa do the right thing? I would love to hear your thoughts. Can you also do me a favor and subscribe to this channel? This way, we can meet again in another story.